Hello everyone, before you start the battle with Godrick, you're going to want to talk to an NPC right here in this area of the castle, and I'll zoom out for you. And then I'll zoom back in, and this is what the surrounding area looks like. And then if I go back this way, this is that big open area where if you came in through the front gates, there'd be a ton of enemies waiting for you. So after you pass that area and then you come up these stairs and then you start walking down this path, there's going to be some birds that you'll have to take out. But once you take out all of the enemies in this area, then you're going to take a right and there's going to be a little room right down in here. And then when you walk in this room, that's where that NPC that I was talking about is going to be located. And that NPC is a Tarnished. So after you're done talking to that Tarnished, she will now be able to be summoned by you before you start the battle. And then this would be the entrance to where you fight Godrick the Grafted. And right next to the entrance, there's going to be a gold summoning stone. You're going to want to interact with that. Once you interact with that, that'll summon that Tarnished that you just talked to back in that room. And now, like the fight with Margit, you'll now have an ally to aid you during this battle. Okay, and then once you walk through the door and you start the fight with Godrick, Godrick has a couple of attacks. So we're going to talk about the different types of attacks he has first. So some of his basic attacks are where he will do a jump in the air and then he just does a single swing with his axe at you. And then he's got another attack where he takes his giant axe and then he'll do a large sweep against the ground where he's scraping it against the ground and then he'll bring it up and then he'll bring it right back down and scrape it going the other direction. And then there's another attack very similar to that one where he'll slam his axe into the ground and kind of sweep it against the ground, but then he'll bring it up off the ground and then he does a really large sweep. He also has one attack where he'll just jump straight up onto the air and then he'll just smash the ground right below him. And then the last basic attack that we're going to cover is where he'll swing 5 times in a row. It's like a 5 swing combo. So he'll start by swinging through the air and then he'll arc back going the other direction, swinging through the air. That's the second attack. And then he'll swing sweeping upwards. Then he'll swing going downwards. And then he'll wind up for the big final 5th hit where he brings the axe behind his head and then he's going to slam the axe into the ground. And all of those standard attacks will remain the same from the start of the fight or before 50% of his health bar and at the last half of the fight for the last 50% of his health bar. And now let's talk about some of his special attacks. So he has a whirlwind ability where he will start to whip wind around him and you can see the wind. It's going to appear like white twisting clouds going around him. The moment you see him start to do that, get away from him as fast as you can. What he's going to do is he's going to swing once around himself, swing twice around himself, and then he'll kick up a bunch of air spinning around himself, and then he'll pound his fist onto the ground, and then he'll roll towards you, and then he'll jump in the air for a final 4th attack where he'll do a sweeping slam attack with his axe into the ground. And then the only thing that's different with that whirlwind ability from the start of the fight versus the last half of the fight is in the last half of the fight, he's going to have a dragon arm where he can breathe fire. So when he does the whirlwind, that whirlwind is not only going to have wind, but it's going to have fire going through it. And all of that fire can damage you. And then Godrick also has a ground slam attack where he kind of like breaks all of the earth around him and then he'll uplift it from the ground. At the start of the fight, he's going to do it where he slams the ground and then he'll crack all the ground around him in a small radius. And then there'll be a second follow-up attack where there's an even bigger radius that the ground is smashed. So when he starts doing that, just start rolling away from him as fast as you can. And if you time it right, you can evade those ground smashes. You can also jump to avoid those ground smashes. In the start of the fight, that only happens twice. Whereas in the third part of the fight, there's going to be 2 of those smaller radius ground smashes. And then there's going to be a third and final bigger ground smash. And then finally, once you get to the halfway point of the fight, Godrick's now going to have that dragon arm where he breathes fire. So one of his new attacks is where he'll breathe fire in a wide arc right in front of him, but he only goes right in front of him, like I said. So if you can get to the very far right or left of him, or even behind him, that fire is not going to hit you. And I've found that sometimes you can dodge this attack, and that sums up the types of attacks that Godrick has. So if you can get those attacks down and memorize the attack patterns and when his attack combos end, what you can do is the moment he starts to do one of those attack combos is just keep on rolling away, and if you get the attack timing down, you can roll away at just the perfect time so you can completely evade those attacks so you don't take any damage. Just keep on rolling away from him until his attack combo is done. The moment he finishes one of his attack combos, that's when you go in for an attack or 2. That's it. If you overcommit, that's when you get hit. And if you can, you're going to let that ally that you summoned take some of the focus away from you and take it onto them. And the moment that Godrick is focused on them, that's when you can come up behind Godrick and start getting some more hits in. The main thing is you just do not want to get touched by Godrick. And then once you get to about the 50% mark, that's when Godrick's going to take his axe axe, and then he's going to chop off one of his arms. When he starts this animation, that's when you have a chance to get about 3 or 4 hits in on him, because he's going to be distracted with cutting his own arm off, and before the cutscene starts, he's not going to be defending himself, so you can get some extra damage in right then. And then once the second phase starts, once again, you're going to do the same thing you did in the first part of the fight. One other thing I'd recommend is at the second half of the fight, that's when you're going to want to summon any spirits that you have available to you. For this fight, I had the Godrick soldiers as my selected spirits, so once I got to the second half of the fight, like I was just saying, I summoned those spirits, and the main reason I saved them for the second half and not the first half is I didn't want them to die before I got to the second half of the battle, because if your ally dies, then it's just going to be all focused on you. But if your spirits are still alive, then you can use those spirits as another tool to help distract Godrick from attacking you. But regardless of whether or not you have spirits at the last half of the fight, just back to what I said before. Let him finish his combos, any types of attacks that he's doing. Once he finishes those attack combos, that's when you go in for an attack or two, and then you back off and just keep on rolling away. And you're going to have to practice a couple times to get the timing of his attack combos down. But once you have the timing down, then you'll be able to just keep on poking him until all of his health is drained and you finish off Godrick the Grafted. Anyway, that's all there is to it. So if you have any questions at all, please post them in the comment section. Subscribe for more. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.